Hi, this is Chapter 9, Cryptography, Part 1. Here are the topics. We're going to cover what cryptography is, how cryptography can address business and security requirements, cryptographic applications, what ones are used in information system security, what cryptographic principles, concepts, and terminology are, cryptographic applications, tools, and resources are, and what the principles of certificates and key management are. Our goals: when you're done with this chapter, you'll be able to define the basic concepts of cryptography, describe symmetric, asymmetric, and hashing algorithms, examine the various uses of cryptography, understand the challenges of cryptographic issues, and define certificate management. The learning objective overall is to explain how businesses apply cryptography in maintaining information security. The key concepts, the basics of cryptography, business applications of cryptography, symmetric and asymmetric key cryptography, encryption mechanisms and techniques, and certificate and key management. Let's talk about cryptography basics. What is cryptography? Cryptography is the art of transforming a readable message into a form that is only readable by authorized users. Important definitions of cryptographic terms include unencrypted information. Information in understandable form is called plain text or clear text. Encrypted information. Information in scrambled form. That is called ciphertext. Encryption. The process of scrambling the plain text into ciphertext. Decryption. The process of unscrambling ciphertext into plain text. Algorithm. A repeatable process that produces the same result when it receives the same input. Cipher, an algorithm to encrypt or decrypt information. And hashing, some encryption algorithms have no decryption algorithms. These are one-way algorithms or hashing functions. The output of a one-way algorithm is a hash. Hashing functions are used to protect data from unauthorized changes, thus guaranteeing data's integrity. So let's talk about a crypto system at work. Here we see somebody sends a message, meet me at 9, is plain text through the crypto system, the algorithm, and it comes out as some kind of gobbledygook gibberish, which is the ciphertext. Let's talk about encryption cipher categories. Those that use the same key to encrypt and decrypt are private or symmetric key ciphers. Those that use different keys to encrypt and decrypt are public or asymmetric key ciphers. Some basic cryptographic principles: the key space, the number of possible keys to a cipher. Without any knowledge of the key, an attacker with access to an encrypted message and the decryption cipher could try every possible key to decode the message. This is a brute force attack. By making the key space large enough, you make the cost of a brute force attack high. A larger key space generally means greater security. Open ciphers. These make it possible for experts around the world to examine the ciphers for weaknesses. Any cipher is far more secure if it withstands public scrutiny without anyone identifying major flaws. The Data Encryption Standard, or DES. This is the most scrutinized cipher in history. So, a brief history of cryptography. People have used cryptography to protect information for at least 4,000 years. Steganography is the act of hiding information, like hiding a message in the pixels of a picture. Cryptanalysis is breaking code. Cryptography was used in both World War I and World War II. In World War I, the famous Zimmermann telegram, which was sent by the Germans to Mexico. Germany wanted Mexico to attack the United States, keep us out of World War I. It was intercepted by the British, who then broke the code, which was a block cipher, and told the United States. We got upset about that, of course, went to war, joined World War One. World War II, of course, the Enigma machine and other cryptographic methods were used to break the Nazis' hold on anti-submarine, on submarine warfare in the North Atlantic. Symmetric and asymmetric key cryptography was introduced in 1976, and I include a more complete, or at least more detailed, history of it in our Chapter 9 learning module. There's a complete web page, which is based from when we were Armstrong. I actually put this web page together, and it is quite lengthy and quite detailed, but it describes a lot of the world history of um, cryptography, and it is very interesting. And you probably need to know some of the more recent points about historical points about cryptography. Okay, so let's talk about cryptography's role in information security. Confidentiality. It keeps information secret from unauthorized users. It makes information unintelligible to anyone who doesn't know the encryption cipher and the proper key. Authorized users get this knowledge. An effective cryptanalysis can produce it. Integrity ensures that no one, even the sender, changes information after transmitting it. If a message doesn't decrypt properly, someone or something probably changed the ciphertext in transit. Integrity is enforced with hashes or checksums. A checksum is a one-way calculation of information that yields a result that is usually much smaller than the original message. It is difficult to duplicate. For example, a simple checksum of the phone number 1-800-555-1212 could be the sum of each digit, which would be 30. You can't recreate the phone number knowing the checksum. Nevertheless, you can tell if the phone number matches the checksum. If you change one digit, the checksum no longer matches the expected value. Since it's easy to change digits and recreate the correct checksum, we use more robust mathematical methods, hashing algorithms. Authentication. This confirms the identity of an entity. A traditional military authentication method is a password. During the Battle of the Bulge in December 1944 in World War II, German soldiers impersonated Americans dressing in their uniforms, and then once they would get into their unit, they attacked them and killed them. Many of these German recruits spoke very good English. Once the U.S. soldiers realized that the Nazi soldiers were impersonating Americans, they came up with an ingenious method to determine who was authentic. They asked them known Major League Baseball statistics, like how many home runs Babe Ruth hit in 1927, which was the record at that time of 60, or what year did he do it, which would have been 1927, to determine who was authentic and who wasn't. Today we use user IDs and passwords, or even biometrics, or two-factor authentication, such as a text code sent to your smartphone. However, you could say a similar method is used when you have to answer a specific question, such as the city of your birth, your mother's maiden name, when you had to further authenticate yourself to a website. Non-repudiation. This enables you to prevent a party from denying a previous statement or action. You can't say you didn't authorize it, or didn't say it, or didn't do it. Using asymmetric key cryptography, you can prove mathematically, usually to the satisfaction of a judge or jury, that a particular party did indeed originate a separate message at a specific time. Let's talk about the business and security requirements for cryptography. Internal security. Confidentiality keeps information, again, readable only by authorized people. Information such as salary information, corporate trade secrets, research and development efforts, and results are protected by confidentiality. Privacy. This is often confused with confidentiality. It differs in that it protects the release of information that could identify an individual, what we call PII, or personally identifiable information. Privacy assures that an attacker cannot assemble available information to identify an individual. Integrity. This ensures that no one has changed or deleted or tampered with the data. Authorization means approving someone to do a specific task or access certain data. For example, changing salary plans requires proper authorization from management. And just today, I had to change or gain access to the email address cyber@georgiasouthern.edu, and I had to be authorized to do that. as well as I was given a PIN, which I had to use to confirm my capability of doing that once I entered in the user ID and a new password. Security in business relationships. Message authentication. This confirms the identity of the person who started a correspondence. Signature. A digital signature binds a message or data to a specific entity. This is not a digitized signature, which is an image of an electronically reproduced signature. Receipt and confirmation. Receipt verifies that an entity acknowledges information has arrived. Confirmation acknowledges that the provider has provided a service. Non-repudiation means that the person who sends a message cannot later deny it. Anonymity. These are security measures that benefit everyone. Anonymity disguises the user's identity. Unfortunately, criminals and terrorists can use anonymity to avoid detection. Timestamping provides the exact time when a producer creates or sends information. Revocation stops authorization for access to data. For example, a person who loses his credit card calls the issuer to stop the use of the card and, of course, issue a new one. And ownership associates a person with information to claim their legal rights. A very good example, probably the best one, is the use of copyright to protect written or performed or musical productions. Okay, these information security objectives come from the Handbook of Applied Cryptography. They're all in Table 9-1 on page 297. So I'm not going to read them all to you. Just we'll look at them for a few seconds and go on to the next one. There are actually 3 slides, I think, of this. And here we have the next group, authorization, validation, access control, certification, which we didn't talk about previously. This endorse information by a trusted entity, timestamping, and witnessing. And the last slide, receipt, acknowledge that you received the information, confirmation, which is not receipt, ownership and anonymity, non-repudiation, again, and revocation. Okay, cryptographic functions and ciphers. Each cipher has specific characteristics that make it desirable or undesirable. When evaluating a cipher, consider its intended use. Are you trying to secure data in transit or data at rest? Different ciphers solve different problems better than others. And by the way, after selecting a cipher, you must make additional decisions about key size, operational mode, etc. Many symmetric ciphers operate either as a stream cipher or a block cipher. A stream cipher encrypts 1 byte or 1 bit at a time, usually 1 bit at a time. A block cipher encrypts an entire block of data at a time. Sometimes these particular bits or blocks, especially block ciphers, perform multiple rounds of matrix multiplication in order to produce a new key. Business security implementations, authentication, non-PKI, access control and authorization, assessment and audit, security management products, perimeter network security and availability, content filtering, encryption, administration education, and outsourced services and consultants. Cryptography capabilities, privacy or confidentiality. Cryptography scrambles information so that only someone with the right cipher and key can read it. Note that this person could include a clever cryptanalyst. Integrity, again, we talked about this. Cryptography protects integrity by providing checksums or hashes. You can compare these with a known table of good values to prove that data have not changed. Entity authentication or identification. Someone's ability to encode or decode a message means that person has the cryptographic key or has the ability to calculate the key. If a business relationship requires that this key remain secret, possession is proof of valid identity. Message authentication. Similar to entity authentication, a coded message with a private key proves who the message's writer is. Again, this stipulation should be part of any business contract or formal relationship. Signature. Cryptography can provide a way to make a digital signature. This can prove that a given person sent a specific message. Access control. This involves encrypting privileged resources or data so that only authorized people can decrypt them and enforce access to them. Certification. A trusted entity can certify a message or data by adding a cryptographic checksum and a digital signature. Timestamping. Using asymmetric key cryptography, a trusted device can issue timestamps that attackers cannot forge. Timestamping binds a hash of the timestamped information with the output of a secure, reliable clock. Witnessing. A third party can add a cryptographic checksum to data to prove that those data exist in a given format at a particular time. Ownership. This refers to a cryptographic hash created by an owner and added to the data, then submitted to a trusted third party for corroboration. This identifies an entity as the data's owner. Anonymity. Using cryptography, you can conceal the identity of an entity by passing information in an encrypted format that monitors cannot intercept. In addition, using a series of encrypted hops and getting rid of logs can provide an entity with an anonymous presence on the internet, which is how, of course, those bad guys in Eastern Europe, Belarus, and such work. Non-repudiation and asymmetric key signature of data agreed to as part of a business relationship can prove the sender's identity to the receiver. Types of ciphers. Transposition ciphers. These rearrange characters or bits of data. Substitution ciphers replace bits, characters, or blocks of information with other bits, characters, or blocks. Here's a simple transposition cipher. The message is attack at dawn. So you put, right to left, left to right in those columns across the first row, the second row, and the third row, and your columns are the key, 1, 2, 3, 4. So after writing the message in the table, read the information in the columns. The key means read the columns from left to right, or in the order of the columns. In this case, they are read left to right. So the ciphertext is ACD column 1, TKA column 2, DAW column 3, ATN column 4. However, if you change the order in which they are read, in other words, the key, the code would be different. For example, a key of 3412 would result in TAW, ATN, ACD, TKA. Transposition ciphers keep all the elements of the original message. They simply scramble the information in a way that they can reassemble later. In addition, if you note the frequency of the letters used in the message, the most used letters in the English alphabet, by using, in other words, the ones that are the most used letters, then by using what's known as frequency analysis, they can lead the cryptanalyst to deduce that this is a transposition cipher. Substitution ciphers. The most famous one is the Caesar cipher. Note there are 25 possible keys for a Caesar cipher. The 26th key maps characters back onto themselves. Also note that Caesar is not a transposition cipher, as the letters in the ciphertext were not present in the original plain text. Keyword mixed alphabet cipher uses a cipher alphabet that consists of a keyword minus duplicates followed by the remaining letters of the alphabet. Vigenère cipher, named after Vigenère, encrypts every letter with its own substitution scheme. Simple substitution cipher allows any letter to uniquely map to any other letter. Let's look at the keyword mixed alphabet. From the text, the keyword mixed alphabet cipher uses a cipher alphabet consists of a keyword minus duplicates followed by the remaining letters of the alphabet. For example, using the keyword cryptography, this type of cipher would yield the following. Thus, the plain text word alphabet would encrypt to CEKACRTQ. The Vigenère cipher, any substitution cipher will use the same basic principles regardless of complexity. To make it harder to break these codes, you can use multiple encryption schemes in succession. For example, you could encrypt every letter with its own substitution scheme. This is a Vigenère cipher. We use this in IT 2531. It works like multiple Caesar ciphers, each with its own shift characters. For example, you could use the word party as the key, which would then use 5 Caesar ciphers, PARTY, the columns for PARTY in the grid, in the square. Knowing that each character in the output has a value of 1 to 26, you can calculate the encrypted character by adding the value of the plaintext character to the value of the corresponding character in the key. If the sum is greater than 26, just subtract 26 to find the final value. Now, this is using mathematics as opposed to the Wiesenaar square. To encrypt the message attack at dawn tomorrow, you would obtain the following. There's your plain text in the first row, the key repeated, party, 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 and this the shift characters using the key. And once you do it, this of course gives more security. The output appears to be much more random. Increasing the key length generally increases the security of the substitution cipher. Not only that, but having a longer key length with no duplicates or a minimal now duplicates does increase the security of the cipher. And again, this is the Wiesenaar square that we used in IT 2531. In order to use this, you have to have two things, the message and the key. Using the example from the textbook that we did in IT 2531, you use the key of the word Italy and a message of sack gall, spare no one. We aren't going to encrypt the entire message, just the first 5 letters, the key being Italy. So we need to replace the key above the words of the message. We get I and S. So we use the keyword letter to find the I column, and then we go down to the row where on the I column, we hit the letter S on the row, and oops, let me go back. And when we do, with the I column and the row, we get the letter, it looks like the letter I believe. So yes. So I find the I in the column, S in the row, and the intersection is A. The first result over encryption is A. Using T as the key, the row of A is easy because T and, it's just going to, the intersection is T. This is the same for the 0 as well. The Z row, not 0. The A column is somewhat unique too. Note that any row in the A column is the letter of the row, so the combination A and the letter C is C. Using L as the key and K as the row, the intersection is V, so we go to L and K as the row, and we get the intersection of V and so forth. And finally, using Y and G as the row, the intersection is E, so our encrypted code is ATCVE for the first 5 letters. Okay, symmetric and asymmetric key cryptography. Symmetric key ciphers use the same key to encrypt and decrypt. Asymmetric key ciphers have 4 key properties, and this is important to know. It is important to know what these 4 key properties are, because these are the properties of an asymmetric key cipher. The first is that 2 associated algorithms are the inverses of each other, and they exist. That are the inverses of each other exist. Each of these 2 algorithms is easy to compute. It is computationally infeasible to derive the second algorithm if you know the first. And lastly, given some random input, you can generate associated key pairs that are inverses of each other. Now, asymmetric key cryptography requires that a public key be placed in a public key repository where it is available to everyone. This key was derived from the holder's private key by way of a mathematical function or algorithm. When I want to encrypt a message to be sent to you, I have to obtain your public key and then I encrypt it with your public key. The message is sent to you. You decrypt it with your private key. Since you are the only person that holds your private key and that private key was used to create the public key that I obtained, this protects the message during transmission. Even if it is intercepted, the perpetrator cannot decrypt it because he or she does not hold your private key. Cryptanalysis and public versus private keys. Now you can break a cipher in 2 ways. Analyzing the ciphertext to find the plaintext or key, analyzing the ciphertext and its associated plaintext to find the key. There are 4 basic forms of cryptographic attack: ciphertext only, called COA, known plain text attack called KPA, chosen plain text attack, and chosen ciphertext attack. And as we end part one, we will talk about each one of these. A ciphertext only attack, or a COA. The sample of ciphertext here is available, but not the plain text associated with it. The cryptanalyst has access only to a segment of the encrypted data and has no choice as to what those data might be. This makes it very difficult to determine what the plain text would be. A known plain text attack, KPA. The ciphertext and the corresponding plain text are both available, but we don't know what the key is. We know what the plain text is and we know what the ciphertext is, but we have no idea what the key is. Here the cryptanalyst possesses certain pieces of information before and after encryption. For example, all secure logon sessions may begin with the characters logon, L-O-G-O-N, and the next transmission may be password. A secure encryption cipher should resist an attack by an analyst who has access to numerous plaintext ciphertext pairs. Chosen plaintext and chosen ciphertext attack. In chosen plaintext, the cryptanalyst can encrypt any information and observe the output. This is the best case for the cryptanalyst. It offers most flexibility and insight into the encryption mechanism. A chosen ciphertext is a special case. It's relevant in asymmetric key systems and hash functions. The cryptanalyst submits data coded with the same cipher and key they are trying to break to the decryption device to see either the plain text output or the effect of the decrypted message has on some system. An example of chosen ciphertext. The owner trains his guard dog to respond only to commands in Navajo. The burglar doesn't know the Navajo, Native American Indian language, but can make a series of noises and sounds. The dog ignores nonsense from its perspective, but obeys valid Navajo commands. Speaking enough gibberish, the burglar may prompt a response from the dog, even if it's not the response he seeks. By observing the dog's reaction to various apparently nonsensical commands, the burglar may be able to make the dog lie down and play dead, or alternately, the burglar may not have enough time to do this, of course. So this is the end of part one. Part two will discuss keys and key space management, hash functions, asymmetric key solutions, and digital signatures and certificates.